Hello, Em. How are you doing, girl? Here I am again. It is the 24th of August, which I believe is a Friday. That's right, my last day of work today. And it is approximately 7 o'clock p.m. And so I'm feeling good. I did my workout today after work, actually at lunchtime. And I did an upper body workout, and I'm feeling pumped. I'm glad for that. Actually, I'm feeling a little bit tired after my workout, but I feel good. Generally, after a workout, I feel fantastic. And right now, I'm feeling that well. I've been sleeping well, I've been eating well, and I'm going to the gym on a regular basis 3 times a week, and I'm loving life right now. I truly am. Really feeling energetic and inspired lately, and really glad for this time I get to spend with you here on the video camera. Um, I've been getting a few things for my car installed. I'm thinking about getting a dash cam for my minivan. I think that might be nice to have. And I'm also thinking about getting a video game console. This afternoon I spent quite a lot of time surfing the web about the Nintendo Switch video games console, and it got me to thinking about whether or not you play video games at all. Do you play the Sega 4 or the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, or do you play Nintendo Switch, or do you use any other kind of console? Do you use a PC perhaps to play video games? I'm not sure. Do you play video games at all? You know, when I was a kid, I played a lot of video games. I played video games using the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. And in fact, that really was a fixture of my life when I was about your age. I did a lot of video game playing. And at the time, video game arcades were a thing. Video game arcade is a place where video games in wooden cabinets are played. People would put quarters into them, and you'd get like 2 minutes worth of video game play if you were lucky, because back then the video games were really tough, and your players died like all the time. Typically, a video game gave you 3 lives, and I'll tell you, man, those lives, depending on your skill level, you would be lucky to live 3 minutes in a video game or while playing a video game. But that is something I did as a kid growing up. I played a lot of video games, and I have a lot of good memories about playing video games. Today, I don't really play video games. I do happen to have a handheld gaming console, a Nintendo DX, I think, and it's in storage. And part of the reason is because I am having a hard time finding cartridges for it, for the games that I want, and even just staying motivated to play. I'm what I'd call a classic gamer, which means that I like playing video games that are kind of old. I like playing Pac-Man and Metroid and Legend of Zelda and Castlevania and Donkey Kong and Mario Brothers, or Super Mario Brothers, Ice Climber, games like that. Old games. These are probably games you've never heard of. They're on the order of Pac-Man, Asteroids, Space Invaders, some of the games that first came out on gaming consoles probably 30 years ago. And so these are the kind of games I like to play. I don't know much about these newfangled games that people are playing on their PlayStation 4, like Fortnite and things like that, although I have played Fortnite. My brother, Enrico, who lives in Taos, New Mexico, has an Xbox, I think, or maybe it's a PlayStation 4, and he plays Fortnite on it. And I was able to play with him on his video game system in Taos when I visited him last May. And I really enjoyed it. I can see why it's a very popular game. Now I also see that Fortnite is available on the Nintendo Switch, and that's getting me interested perhaps in buying a video game system. So I've been also having this other idea of putting the Nintendo Switch into my vehicle, into my minivan. And that would mean getting something like a fold down from the roof screen, like a large screen or something, or I can hook up the Nintendo Switch using an HDMI cable, and we can play video games and things like that. Now, I wouldn't be able to because I'm driving the minivan, but any of my passengers would be able to play video games. To me, that sounds pretty cool. And if I were to stop, say, take a break, I could play video games too. And to me, that sounds like a pretty decent idea. And so I'm kind of excited about that. Kind of wondering about whether that's possible or not, or whether that's someplace I want to spend my money. Another purchase I've been considering is maybe buying a bicycle. I bike at the gym all the time. In fact, I bike for an hour on a stationary bicycle at the gym, between once and twice a week. And so I've got biking legs. I typically bicycle around 13 miles when I bike. And I bike for quite a long time, for about an hour or so. And so I'm pretty strong when it comes to biking, and I could definitely, if I bought a bike, I think I could be quite effective on it. I used to ride bikes all the time when I was growing up in Taos and in Albuquerque. And I don't quite ride bikes so much anymore for, leisure time. But I can see the utility in buying a bike. And they're not too expensive. I could pick one up. I just haven't committed to, say, a certain style or design. Haven't committed to actually buying a bike yet. I know that I'm going to probably have to buy a bike rack, but I don't have to since I've got a minivan. I can just open the door and put the bike in the center area of the minivan and be covered. So there are a lot of possibilities with a bike, and I guess I just have to commit myself to going forward and purchasing a bike. I just haven't done it yet. I'm pretty sure that eventually I will, because having a bike is such a utilitarian option. Sometimes I just want to go someplace and not have to drive there and not have to walk. I live downtown. I live in downtown Lompoc, so things are very close to me, like Ryan Park, where they have like the Flower Festival. I can easily just walk there. It's no big deal. It takes me like 4 minutes or 5 minutes to walk there. And I could also walk down to the Southside Coffee Company. Again, that's very close. Maybe it takes me 6 or 7 minutes to get down there. These are trivial distances to walk. And now that I think about it, I should probably be walking instead of riding a bicycle. So anyway, those are two ideas I've had lately. I wonder if you have any input about them. I wonder if you play video games, and I wonder if you go bicycling. I'd be interested to know. That might help me decide what bike to get or what video game console to get and how to use them. Anyway, let's see. Today is the 24th, and I figured that I would go ahead and read an excerpt from my book, Peaceful Living. So let's do that. August 24th. Honesty is the first chapter of the Book of Wisdom. Thomas Jefferson. So I'll read the first paragraph here of the description. Mary McKenzie goes into a little more detail about what she thinks about this quote. When someone doesn't appreciate our honesty, not everyone will receive your honesty with joy. If they seem unhappy, this is an indication that they have unmet needs, not that you have made them unhappy. Remember that feelings are a result of met or unmet needs. A situation is only the stimulus of feelings, not the cause. When someone doesn't appreciate your honesty, try empathizing with them. So I'm just going to go that far. The passage goes along a little farther. That's actually a pretty interesting point. This whole idea about where people's emotions come from. It's I've got some ideas about it, but I don't think that I'll go into them. Let's see. Honesty, truth, trust. In order to be effective in the world, we seek out the truth. We seek out information about the way the world is so that we can act effectively within it. And and that's certainly the case with me. I'm very much interested, open to receiving information about the way the world truly is, so that I can calibrate my behavior and that I can adjust my strategies to be the most effective in the world. And that's what I try to do all the time. And so I'm focused on that kind of thing, and I really appreciate inputs from every corner. I really want that feedback of how people are feeling and what they desire and what they need and what their goals are, and that feedback is very helpful to me, because it helps me sort of calibrate my behavior and some of my ideas. It also is a great stimulus for me to get creative about ways to sort of face problems and face issues. And let me tell you, that's something that's really important. So let's see, what else would I like to do? What else do I have going on here today? You know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to lower this camera just a little bit. All right. So let me just do a little bit of reflection about how I'm doing in the moment right now. Well, right now I'm focusing on my breath a little bit. I'm interested about how much I'm using it and how little I'm using it. I was out of breath a moment ago, and that is curious to me. I'm wondering what's causing that, and I seem to be having it more under control, and I appreciate that. Let's see, what else is going on? I've been appreciating the strength of my hands lately. Like I mentioned, I did some working out today at the gym, and one of the exercises that I do at the gym is something called a dead hang. So basically what I'll do is there will be pull-up bars, and basically I grasp onto those bars, and then I hang from those bars, and I just try to hang as long as I can. And what that does is it sort of improves my grip strength. And by doing that, what I do is essentially strengthening the muscles in my forearm. And so I've been feeling strong in my hands lately. And I've been opening jars of food. And believe it or not, I even have trouble opening some jars of food. Now, I really feel a little bit of concern and sadness for people who are older or who are infirm, who eat food out of jars, because these people typically do not have grip strength. Their hands aren't very strong. And every time I go to a jar and I struggle with getting that lid open, my mind is always feeling compassion for other people who aren't as strong as I am. Here I am probably at, I haven't been this strong in years. And still a person who's struggling opening some jars. It's funny. I wonder if, I'm kind of surprised that tools are for opening lids on jars, and those tools to get extra leverage on those lids are not even more popular than they are. These older folks must have different strategies for dealing with tight lids on jars. I'm not sure what they do. Maybe they bang on the lid, or maybe they put the lid under hot water, or maybe they just toss the whole thing in the garbage because they're done with the whole thing. I don't know how older folks are dealing with these tight lids. It's kind of curious. I wonder what it is. I'm gonna have to ask an older person how they deal. They may not even deal with it at all. They may get everything out of cans that they can open with a can opener or an electric can opener. Or maybe they only source things in plastic bags or burlap bags or other things like that. Or cardboard cartons. My guess is that that's what they do. They just avoid that kind of container. But let me tell you, there are some containers that they may not have lids, but they do have seals, say under a cap. Sometimes these plastic seals are really hard to get open. Like I've got, I don't know if I'm going to be able to come up with any examples, but a lot of syrups, and other containers with a flip top, they've got a seal underneath the cap. And sometimes it's hard. You really do need dexterity to grab that seal using the tab, right? There's very tiny tabs quite frequently, and then you've got to pinch really hard, and then you've got to tear that seal off the top. You know, that also. You know, as an older person, I don't know how they're doing it. Maybe they use tweezers or some other tool. Maybe they're using wrenches or knives. I hope they're not using knives because with one slip, that can be a problem, especially for an older person who has very thin skin, you know. So anyway, that's just my reflection about older people and the struggles they go through trying to open lids and open seals on containers. You know, I have a lot of compassion for them. I kind of have a really open heart for them. You know, just getting along in the world as an older person is not the easiest thing to do. I've seen a lot of older people, you know, they're not able to walk. I was at Walmart the other day, and there are people who are using these electric strollers to get around. Tragedy, tragedy. Necessary. I'm so glad that the strollers exist and that they're there to support these older people or people who are infirm or disabled. That is such a great idea. Though, at the same time, it's tragic that they can't go to the grocery store on their own and get their own food. You know, it's really just another example of how amazing my life is right now, where, you know, I'm not that sick. You know, in fact, I'm super duper healthy. You know, I go to the grocery store anytime I want. I grab as much food from any shelves that I can reach, despite my height. And although I'm very normal height, I'm about 5'7". But I can pretty much grab anything I want from the grocery store and put it in bags and lug those bags up into my apartment. And my apartment is on the second floor, so all the bags that I have, I've got to carry up the second floor. And I generally end up hopping or sort of running up the stairs. I've been doing that lately. You know, I'm fit and strong. And so that's in very strong contrast to a lot of people who are sick. In fact, I have a friend. His name is Michael, and he's moving out of his apartment today. He's moving, I guess, to Santa Barbara. He's being evicted from his home. You know, I don't know him very well, but this poor guy is being evicted because he's been sick lately. He had sepsis. Somehow he got a cut or something on his hand or whatever. It got inflamed and infected, and he wasn't getting better. He got sick and it got worse, and then he went to the hospital and they found out that he has sepsis. This poor guy is now stuck in the hospital for 2 weeks recovering from sepsis, from a tiny cut, right? Now, because he's basically out of commission for 2 weeks, he can't pay his rent. He can't comply with the homeowner's requirements about doing one thing or another because they're applying pesticides or whatever, and so now he is getting kicked out of his home. I mean, this is just weeks after he's been sick with sepsis, recovering in the hospital. This poor guy, totally weak. He's still weak, having to move out of his home, and it's such a tragedy. So many, I'm really stunned about how many tragedies there are that are just incidental, that are actually rather common. People get in car accidents, people get sick for no reason, they go to doctors and maybe get poor care or misunderstand something. Um, there is just something regrettable about how life is so delicate and fragile. How really it doesn't take much. I have a friend, in fact, his name is Good Friend, that's his last name. He had a stroke. Brilliant guy, an excellent communicator, has a stroke, and now he's not very pleasant to listen to because, he is struggling with communicating with others. He's trying the best he can with the skills that he has, with the parts of his brain that are still intact. And he's a great, sweet guy. Big heart, wonderful, compassionate man. But, he's slowed down a little bit because of the stroke. And, these things happen out of the blue. And, it happens all the time. It's so tragic. So that is something that gets me to be just more grateful for all that I've got in the world. And I'm reflecting too on how I've got you, and you're healthy and strong and happy, presumably. And I'm healthy, strong, and happy. And just how fortunate we are to have that. And man, it makes me happy that we are in such good shape. And anyway, I love you, girl. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.